Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. Today we're going to talk about PAC-B, its origins, where it came from, and where it's going. Today I've got two of our older members and founding people in the meeting. And why don't you guys introduce yourself? How about you go first, Joe?
My name is Joe Lafredo. I've been in Baldwinsville since 1963. I'm a retired Baldwinsville elementary teacher.
I'm Bob Edgett. Joined PAC not at the beginning, but in the early days. Retired from IBM, and must be I needed something else to do because I ended up getting involved in PAC.
And can I add on to what Bob said there? Because in 1998, when I retired, I'm looking through this channel, this PAC-B channel that I knew nothing about. It was either on 12 or 14 at the time, and I can't remember. And I'm seeing the Lysander Town Board meeting, Van Buren Town Board meeting, Village Board meeting, but no Board of Education meeting. I'm saying, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. No Board of Education meeting. So I called up Norma, and I said, Norma, no Board of Education meeting. Well, we have nobody to do it. I said, I'll do it. And that's how I got started, videotaping the Board of Education meeting.
Wow. I got hooked up probably about 20 years ago. A friend of mine, Jim Hoteling, was in it. And he goes, oh, you like to take videos, don't you? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you should come down and join PAC-B. I'm like, oh, sounds like fun, because I was shooting sports like you and I were alluding to earlier, Joe. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'd love to do that. Get into it. And I got hooked up. And back then I heard with Colin Cowell. We went and did a Vera House program. And I did a 2-camera shoot by myself doing a opening garden thing.
Wow.
And you get so excited to see your work, right? You're like,
right.
Oh,
Yes, you do.
Back then it was cutting edge, before the YouTubes, right? Before all that stuff. This was it. This was the original YouTube, right?
Right.
It was our stuff around here.
Right.
So speaking of that, about public television refers to, it's a broadcasting that is funded and operated by the government. It's a nonprofit organization. It's a combination of public and private funding. The primary goal is to serve the public interest by providing educational, informative, and culturally enriching content. So that's kind of like what public television is. And in the beginning, there's some original pioneers. You referred to the Norma Goodman earlier.
And Don.
Yeah. I remember meeting her. I mean, she sent me, when I first joined, gave me all the information on, these PAC channels across the country and San Diego. And that's when the internet would just start. You could barely research that stuff. But she had quite the vision. I mean, obviously. Any reminiscence of Norma?
Yes. As I said, I got started with the Board of Education, and then I said to her one day, how can we get more people to watch this public access channel other than just people that want to watch meetings? And we came up with the idea, let's put kids on.
Yep.
And once we say kids, that means sporting events and musical events.
Yep.
And the musical events, not only elementary, but junior high school, middle school, and senior high school. In fact, the sporting event one started out as being a big one. And first time I go to videotape a sporting event back in say either the fall of 98 or the winter of 99. And I'm setting up, and this kid next to me says, what are you doing? I told him. He says, how can I get involved? Turned out to be Mike Toper.
Oh, I don't see that. Toper, yeah.
Mike Toper, eighth grader. He was an 8th grader at the time. He did an 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, 5 years. And he ended up, going to school, and I'm not sure where he went to college, but he ended up being a sports personality on a channel in North Carolina as the sports guy.
Yeah, it's a small world. He was my son's best friend. He lived in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
He went to Syracuse. He ended up going to Oswego State, where he finished up.
Okay.
And now he's down in Carolina doing that. Yeah, he went a long way.
He was on TV station in Raleigh.
Yeah. So he was down. He did really, really well. In fact, he was just posting again. He's got his new TV name is Mike Williams.
Right. Oh, is that right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Mike Williams. Yeah, no, he was just up here. He's a great character, but you could tell, right from the beginning, he had that.
Right. I mean, just an 8th grader saying to an adult that at the time was 56, 57, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
how can I get involved? I mean, he had the gumption to go forward and say those things and find out.
Yeah.
No,
No,
he
no,
didn't, he wasn't a guy that was gonna sit back and wait.
no, Mike's definitely a go-getter and still a go-getter. I mean, that's a nice type of personality to have in this type of industry. How about you, Mr. Edgy?
Pardon?
How about you?
Pardon?
How about you reminiscing of the olden days in the beginning?
I didn't get that.
In the beginning, how it started out with the pioneers, the Normas, and the people that you worked with.
Okay, actually, the way I got started was a little different than Joe's. Uh, as I said, I retired from IBM. I knew Bob Stockdale from before PAC-B, but then Don Goodman and Norma, who actually were the starters of PAC-B, they arranged the legal aspect and started to find some equipment and get some people interested. Well, it went along. I was actually videoing for the Community Wesleyan Church, and one of the people that was working temporary in the library said, they're trying to start a TV station here, and thought you might be interested in it. Well, at the time, I was videoing church services and uploading them to Vimeo at the time. And of course, PAC-B had nothing like that. It was just a television. But anyway, Norma or Don, I don't know which one, called me and said, we just went into something real new that we don't know what we're into, and understand you have some knowledge in it. I said, what's that? And they said, digital. We're just, this VHS is what we're using. That's all the equipment we have. But we did get a DVD player to put on the system, and we bought a computer system with an editor. So would you be willing to come and give us some guidance how to use this equipment? I said, sure, I'll go come do that. And we had some classes and several interested people. And one of the days as they were doing that, they said, well, we have a problem. I forget whether it was who told me that, needs some coverage. I said, well, I guess I can go out and cover that too. So that started me into covering board meetings mainly and concerts and some of the special events that came up, which is a lot of different things like, well, we might get into that later. Remembering Beeville videos, the different presentations that were done at the library. Friends of the library did a lot of guest speakers come in, and I videoed several of those. And I guess that kind of led me into, rather than the technical aspect, I was ended up doing videos, which I did enjoy mainly because of the two-way feedback you got from the ones that you were doing it for. So that's how I got started. So
nice. Yeah, I mean, like I said, my beginning was I was a sports video guy, and then met with Jim, and Jim said, "Come here and do this." And of course, I didn't shoot any sports because Joe was doing that. So I got to do like the opening of the gardens, the flowers, and I'm sure, Mr. Edge, you remember when I shot that Memorial Day parade, and I forgot to have a card in the camera, and I was all excited. Jim Hotel goes, "Oh, just hit those buttons; it'll be good." And I'm like, "Man, it looks like it's recording." And I get home and I'm all excited because the speaker was a 90-something-year-old. I'm like, "Oh, I got good stuff. Edgett's going to be proud of me." Mr. Edgett, he's like, "You got nothing on that car, Tony." I'm like, "What?" So that's a heartbreaking experience, to say the least. So I'm a lot more careful now, obviously, to make sure. But in the beginning days, it was kind of the wild, wild west. You're right. Coming from VHS into digital and coming across. And I remember, Joe, you had the headers and the footers, and you had to have 10, 15 seconds of space in the beginning and 10 at the end. I remember all of that.
That's right.
Those days, you just had to be so careful of how you
Right.
did it. And obviously,
Exactly.
it's moved on a lot.
We mentioned Bobby Stockdale here. I think we need to give a little background on Bob Stockdale.
Sure.
Bob Stockdale and his buddy, and I forgot what his buddy's name was, started WSEN radio.
I didn't know
1050 on
that.
your dial. 1050 on your dial. And maybe Bobby Edge can correct me. I'm thinking it's back in 1954 or 59 or somewhere in that time period. So he was a good with the background of whatever he had to do for PAC-B. He had all that knowledge and background. And if he didn't have it, he was smart enough, intelligent enough to go ahead and find out. Just like Bobby Edgett is, they could find out everything. In fact, the two of them were involved, Bobby Edgett and Bobby Stockdale, in moving PAC-B from the basement of the library over to Mechanic Street.
Yes.
And I go over there one day, and I'm looking around, and they're not doing anything. Oh yeah, they were doing something. They were reading, but they were stumped. They didn't know what to do for the next step, and both of them had books out, and they were trying to figure out what they had to do to go to the next step, whichever was the next step.
Right.
Sure enough, there they are after 5-10 minutes. Oh, we got it. We got the answer. And I went, whoo, all right. Because it'd be a heck of a thing if we had to move everything back down to the library. You remember what the problem was in Bob Edgett? You remember what that problem was?
No, that was probably just one of several, and no one single one stuck. But that was a good move. I know that we planned an outage time moving the equipment, and we were able to beat that outage time, made it quicker than we anticipated. We left a little leeway in our schedule, but still we were satisfied with the way things went together. Of course, as Joe said, Bob had that planned out very good. And we had done, discussion before the move. And with Bob's planning and actually having run into some technical problems, he liked that extra window that we left in the schedule.
Wow. It's amazing to me now in the day of Google and everything that we have, that to build all that tech back then, you had to find books and look it up. And I mean, there was a lot more into it. Now it's like, oh, I got a question, I Google it. And it comes, oh, there's it, I watch a video on it. It wasn't that way back then.
Oh,
Gosh.
they had books, boy. They were stewing over the books. Where's the answer?
I walked in that room in Mechanic Street, and I saw those machines. I'm like, oh, and I thought I was pretty computer literate. And I'm like, oh my God, look at this stuff. It's all, it's like spaghetti everywhere. It's all wired up. There's a monitor going on top, and here's the carousel. And I'm like, oh, here's all the DVD players all lined up. It was quite the accomplishment back in that day. I mean, it's just so different.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
I go back before that, because when I started IBM, it was all vacuum tubes.
Oh,
we had the Sage system, which was the air defense system at the time. We were, there was 140 of us doing the sites in Syracuse, which were out in that solid block building out at Hancock Field. And it needed all 140 of us at the time with vacuum tubes, because there was something going bad every day. So a drastic change from then until now, where everything is very, very stable. The biggest thing that's not stable is the people involved now.
Yeah. That's kind of true about everything, though. Yeah, but you're right that we can get into the technological evolution. I mean, we've come so far, because I started back when we were in the library basement shooting VHS, doing analog conversions, and then we got crazy. We got the digital camcorders, and we could just download that straight off a wire, and that was a big news. And now it's strictly all digital. I mean, and it's crazy. I mean, I love it. And editing now is a breeze. There's free programs. Back then you had to learn Adobe Premiere or some deep dark program, and now it's like, oh, and even one step further, cell phones. I
Yeah.
shoot a lot of video on my iPhone, which just shoots 4K, 60 frames a
Right.
second, which is amazing. I mean, I go to air shows and I have tons of equipment. I mean, I've got, like DSLRs that can shoot video mirrorless, but I end up using my phone because it's easier and the picture's beautiful, right?
Right.
I mean, I'd love to go into all the heavy duty stuff, but for what I do, it works out really well. But it's come a long way. And it's like the new studio, and we've alluded to that when we moved to Mechanic Street, and now we're down the road in Lysander. Now we've got green screens and digital cameras, 6K stuff, really, really state of the art. We've come a long, long way. And again, still goes back to what you said, Bob, is that you still got to get people involved in doing it. We can have all the equipment in the world and but we need people interested in doing it. And as Joe alluded to before, sports, it's not as easy as just sitting there taking a video and you're done. There's more to it than the technological part of it. There's more to it than just the video nuts and bolts. There's the personality, the way it's presented, and there's a lot to it. And that's I think the biggest challenge is in this day and age, how do you get younger people or even middle-aged people involved in where they can get into and see that they're contributing to their community. I mean, sports, I'm a big sports guy, big band and music guy, because nothing makes a parent prouder or a grandparent than seeing their kid on TV.
Right.
YouTube's fine, and I love YouTube, but I got channels, but seeing your kids on that TV and saying, "Oh, look, this is my grandson or my granddaughter,"
Right.
that's big. I mean, and that's why I think in the future we need to push to get more volunteers.
I'm not sure we have an answer how to get more volunteers, because all the videographers that we've had in the past, they just happened to come forward.
Right.
Give you an example. Now, we talked about Bob Stockdale and his buddy. There was a third person involved with WSCM right from the beginning, with Jim Lowry. They needed a sports guy to do the play-by-play because they saw the importance of having sports, Beeville sports, on the radio. And they went out all the way outside of Pittsburgh to get Jim Lowry and Marge, his wife, and they moved here, and he was the play-by-play on WSCM radio. Well, in his later years, and he was probably 20 years older than I, he says, "I got a good idea for a program." "What is it, Jim?" "Be a good sport."
Oh, yeah.
And we want to interview probably 18, 19 different people in the sports world. We interviewed the athletic directors. We interviewed coaches of the present teams. We even fans. We would do fans. So we had like 18 programs of Be a Good Sport with Jim Lowry. And he was an old radio man, but he knew how to look into the camera and he knew how to entertain.
Right.
It was great. The other guy that came forward in the sports program, it was Gary Reisman. Now, I don't know if you know Gary Reisman at all. He worked for Morris Pumps, lived in Baldwinsville, and you must have seen an early sports program. And somehow I can't remember if he called me or if he just came to a basketball game and saw me and he says, "I want to do play-by-play." Holy cow. He did play-by-play for about 10, 12, 14 years. And at the time, Morris Pumps were bought out and they moved to Seneca Falls. So he still went to work Seneca Falls. He'd leave Seneca Falls at 5 o'clock and get to the gym at 7 without even going at home and do the play-by-play. Now, I don't know where you get those kind of volunteers.
Yeah.
Those people disappear. Now, here's another one. Norma and I are going to videotape the Run for Cancer, and it was at Culture. And we're walking in with all the, as you say, all this big heavy equipment and so on and so forth. And here's this guy, he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we're going to go videotape, and Norma's going to interview the people there, the participants, and Run for Cancer." Well, who did that guy turn out to do? Colin Call.
Oh, yeah.
So there was I always relate PAC-B to the ambulance corps. I was in the ambulance corps from way back in the 60s to early 2007. And in the very beginning, it was all volunteers, neighbor helping neighbor.
Right.
And that's how PAC-B was in the beginning. People just, you just wanted to, hey, this is our TV station. This is our ambulance corps. And they just joined. Just you didn't have, so to answer your question, how do we get those people? I have no idea. Those
Right.
people just came along. We came along. Like
Well,
Brian Sacco, he just kind of came along with his buddy.
but there's a demographic issue. I'm the end of the baby boomers, right? I've just
Right.
retired. I'm out. The generation behind us is a lot smaller. There's not
Right.
as many people, and the world's a lot different than it was back then. Now these people are working 2 jobs, they're hustling, and their kids got them. Everybody's got them convinced their kids need to be in 17 sports and 3 different things.
Right. Right.
They don't stop and breathe. I mean, when I first joined, I was that guy. I was running around from sporting event to sporting event, but I could find time on the weekends. I worked right down the road at Sirocco. So I'm a Beeville guy, but people are so busy, and I don't get it. Now. I've been retired now for 3 years, and my days are full, even retired. I love it, right? But I can do more video. Part of what I'm hoping to do going forward is do more video, less more of this. More,
Right.
I want to get into the community, and like we talked earlier, I'm a photographer. Get into photography and
Right.
get all the stuff that's around Beeville in the general area.
But going to the volunteers, all these names that I mentioned, and one name I forgot, let's get it right out here, is John O'Neill. All those
Yes.
people, John O'Neill did meetings, he did music programs, he did sporting events. But who are all those people? Those were all retired people. They were
Right.
like 56 years old, 60 years old, 62 years old, and they were looking for something to do in retirement.
Right.
And this fit the bill. It wasn't 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds. It was either
Right.
kids at 18, 20, 25, in that range, or the retired people.
Right.
There weren't a lot of people in their 30s, 40s, or 50s. Is that right, Bob Edgett?
You're true. And there is one other thing besides the volunteers. I probably created some extra work for us. As I mentioned earlier, that there was 2 of us using digital. Bob Kirk and I. We had a Sony camcorder that actually recorded in digital mode. Well, it was easy then to upload to the internet if you purchased a service. Well, I purchased Vimeo, which was a paid service like YouTube, but it was a little different. You paid for it. There wasn't any advertisements or anything. It was designed for businesses, and actually it was a good service that, as I uploaded a few church services and a few other things, I contacted the PAC board and said, I could load some of these and give credit to PAC-B. And they said, go ahead. Well, that turned into kind of a snowball we ended up uploading just about everything that was authorized. I mean, some people did not want it on the internet, so respected that request. And that kind of expanded. Actually, PAC just dropped Vimeo. They took over the payments for it from me for several years, and we just dropped it because now YouTube has improved their quality so much. I mean, Vimeo, when you sent it, they didn't compress it or anything. It was the way you sent it. They put it on the internet. Now, with YouTube improving it and adding some features that they didn't have originally, PAC-B dropped the paying for the Vimeo last year. But that was the lead into it. And that has, even though that's not part of the FCC requirements for a public access channel, that we get so many, as Tony mentioned earlier, parents, grandparents want to see their kids' activity if they may live in Florida now.
Right.
That started positive feedback to me to let's keep this going. And I've, over the years, have had several parents contact me and saying thank you. And
Right.
so that, I think, gave a incentive to continue to volunteer.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, he mentioned Bob Kirk. Now, Bob Kirk was another one of these retirees. And I don't know, Bobby Edgett, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. It seemed to me when I first joined PAC-B, Bobby Kirk was all over the place. I wouldn't be surprised if he did 3 or 4 videos a week. On in a year, that's, how many is that? That's like 200. 200.
Yep.
You agree with that, Bob Edgett?
Yeah, right. He was good both in still photography, which it was his prime thing, and then he did an outstanding job of handling video with us not having a lot of pre-training. We
Right.
learned by doing.
And he was just a phenomenal guy. But there was another retiree. So going back to who's going to be the videographers, I think we need to look at that retiree segment of people that are retiring at 55, 65, and are interested in videography. I don't think you're going to get, as you say, 30, 40, or an early 50-year-old people,
Right.
because they're involved in their kids and their own family life.
Yep.
So I think that's the key, the retirement age people.
No, that'd be my group.
Yeah, that's right. That's
It's, it's
exactly
the
right.
people I went to school with at Beeville and that are still in the area, and
Right.
we're the guys. We're the 65-year-olds, and that we're done. I'm
Right.
still chasing grandkids, but it's I'm not chasing the job. It's like,
Because once you're retired, if you sit on your butt, you know what happens.
oh
You
yeah,
die.
you die.
Okay. So people that retire, hopefully they're looking for some things, and maybe they come across PAC-B and say, hey, maybe I can join that. Maybe we need something that says, signs that say, retirees, we PAC-B need you. You have
Right.
time, we need your time.
No, it's a good point. I bet it's both you guys are remarkable in that you're so technologically advanced. You guys really, you're ahead of the curve even when you were doing it. Because a lot of times I'll go out and I'm fairly advanced, but I'll meet people from my own group that have no idea what I'm talking about. And you're like, there's a special group of you that we're interested in the technology, especially like I said, before internet, you guys were looking up in books, hooking up wires. I can't even imagine that. The ability and just to think it out. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
I'm not included in that group that you're talking about. I'm really not. Bobby Edgett's being kind, and he's not going to say anything. But I'm not included in that. I grew up with TV. Now, I was born in 1941.
Right.
Buffalo got their first station, Channel 4 and 48, but we didn't have a TV until like 51 or 52. And once we got a TV, I said, I got to be a cameraman. I got to be a cameraman.
But still, Joe, even lugging around a big VHS camera on your shoulder, on a tripod, at a game, shooting it, knowing what you're doing, that's still a skill.
Well,
right?
no, that's true.
I watched some videos by younger people, or I'm not trying to pick a demographic out, and you're like, oh my God, why is he zooming like that? What is he doing? There's a certain innate ability that they should have, and it's and again it goes back to, you love sports, so you can see your love shows through the thing.
Right.
You're into the religious and bands, and you can show that your passion shows through with what you're doing. So it's really the passion drives the technology, right? Like I said, I'm in bird photography, wildlife, and I love that stuff. I do a bird video, and to me, it's like, it's like the world, because I love it. And that's what you really try to find, is people that really want to show something, really do something.
Now, our youngest member, Bobby Edgett, you can correct me on this. The youngest member that I know of that really got involved was Matt Taylor. And Matt Taylor took over doing the Board of Education when I got tired of doing the Board of Education, or I got involved in other things. We need somebody else to do. And I don't know where Matt came from, but Matt popped up, and Matt did the Board of Education for how many years? 7, 8, 10 years, Bob?
Yeah.
Edgett?
It's been at it a long time, and sticks in there in those long meetings, those 2+ hour meetings that Joe didn't seem to like to cover. But
I did a few of those myself. I guess that was all that thrills.
yeah, they
Right.
get quite long. Joe did bring up several times about Bob Stockdale's technical ability. He had another huge ability, and that was his organization and planning.
Right.
I know he made sure. I mean, he really knew the situation with scheduling and things like that on it, but he wanted to make sure that Joe and I had some basic on it.
Right.
And I remember the morning on a Saturday morning where I turned on PAC and it wasn't what it was supposed to be there. So I went over and put in a schedule that actually Bob had planned the schedule, but it needed to be activated. And I said, there's something wrong here. I didn't hear anything from Bob. Well, later on, I got a call from Joe saying his daughter had found that he had passed through the night.
Oh.
And there Joe and I was running a station that we had depended upon Bob Stockdale handling. So luckily he did enough cross training for the two of us that we
Right.
were able to continue on. If it had been somebody there that just, oh, I know how to do this, I'll take care of it, there would have been a problem. Where he
Right.
wasn't that way. He made sure that there was backup. So I think Joe
2012.
and I both thank Bob for his
Right.
leadership for us to continue on with it. And you need to keep something like that, especially
Oh, yeah.
volunteer organizations. There's not a large group of people that are doing the day-to-day work. So
No,
again,
that's right. In fact, one of Brian's challenges is right now is he's developing our handbook of how to do it and finding a secondary person just in case, right? I mean,
That's right.
I mean, I come from manufacturing, so manufacturing is always about who's my replacement. You know, God forbid I don't show up tomorrow. Who can walk in? And did I leave enough information where they don't walk in cold? Now, you can't teach them every single thing, but you can give a basic framework where they can keep it running till they learn it, because everybody's going to have their own way of doing it. But you got to get through the 1, 2, 3s, get the show on the air, get it broadcasting. Then afterwards you get into the other part. That's a crucial step for the future. It's a good point, Bob, because that's really what we have to do. We have to make sure who's the next.
And Bobby Edgett died in 2012. He was 86 years old, and he was still participating. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
86 years old, still participating, and still organized, and still knew what was going on a whole bit. It was a sad day.
It's something, as I get older, I see coming. It's like, wow. And again, seeing you guys make me feel good. You're pumping me up. It's like, oh, good. Well, good. Because you wonder. You talk about Joe about retiring and all of that, and not doing something is, a big part of keeping your mind sharp is doing something. Keep learning, keep getting involved, keep doing stuff. Because you're right. Once you sit down and stop, you're not getting back up.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's some very good advice.
Now we talked about sports, and we talked about music programs and so on. And then the other big category was community happenings.
Right.
Memorial Day parade.
Yep.
No, and who was the guy that always had a videotape the wreath as it was going under the river bridge? Who was that? Was that you, Bobby Edgett?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me.
Fantastic shot. And the art shows at the library. Joe Cemetile, another retiree who had an interest in art. He would interview the artist of the art show, and the art shows were on maybe there were 4 or 5 art shows a day. Well, another retiree. We keep coming back that retirees.
No, it's a good point. I mean, that's really where we have to get into it. Maybe a a program like this where we do a little roundtable showing like just those regular guys, we can do it. You can do it. You can get up and go out and do some videos, right? We're not looking for an hour and a half movies. We're looking for just snippets of time of what's going on in your life and around you. I mean, that's how we're all looking for. No one's looking for the perfect, it's got to be this, got to be that. I mean, those band concerts, the bands that play with senior citizens that we do,
right?
The school events are big. Sports, obviously, I'm really biased towards sports because I really enjoyed that. But sports, and now into nature, I'm going to work on getting more people involved in the nature stuff. People, nature center, shooting birds. There's people down at the river every day shooting eagles.
Right.
And, get those people. But that's up to me. I mean, I've got to start doing it. As you progress into retirement, where I've 3 years now, is you're like, you still have that feeling that you have to get them to go to work the next day. Then you finally, it starts wearing off, and you're like, I don't go to work tomorrow. I got time. In fact, the last couple of nights I've been outside shooting nebulas, Orion Nebula. I'm doing astrophotography. I'm out there 2:30 in the morning, freezing my butt off, going, I'd have never done this if I was working. But it's so much fun. There's so much stuff to do, and you're like, oh, this is a good thing. But that's we got to keep people enthused and excited about doing what we're doing.
Now you mentioned the community bands, and Bob Kirk at one time did the community bands. I did some of them, but then here comes Ray Rice.
Yes, Ray Rice.
Ray Rice, because his wife played in the community band, so he took over the community band for a while. But what he did before that, he and his buddy Mike Schmidt. What was Schmidt's first name, Bobby? Mike. I forgot what his first name was. They were interested.
John Hudson was mainly in with him too.
But we didn't see. Yeah, that's true.
From
they would go to car shows down at the state fairgrounds. They'd go to car shows in Hershey, Pennsylvania. They'd go to car shows wherever there was a car show. They would do it. And we old timers, I liked when they showed a 1951 Ford, or a 1955 Plymouth, or a 57 Cadillac, or even they even went back at some of these car shows all the way back to the 30s, which was Bobby Edgett's time, not mine. So Ray Rice, I mean, where did he come from? Well, he must have been at home one day, and he must have looked at PAC-B and said, "Hey, wait a minute." And he was a VHS guy to the end.
He was definitely a VHS guy.
Right to the end, right, Bob?
Right to the end. No, I know. Right to the end.
He still insists on using VHS, but I think he gave up. Well, I know he bought a digital camera and then took a lot of pictures of his feet, so he left the camera over for me to edit that out. And he says, I'm never going to use that again, but I think he has used it since.
Yeah. My brother, when we travel, we say I sometimes want him to video so I can be in the video. And most of the time I get shots of his feet riding in the bus. I have it going through an x-ray machine at the Hoover Dam. and he warns me in advance. He goes, I'm going to do this wrong, Tony. I'm like, yeah, how can you? Red dot. But, again, I'm the guy that forgot the memory card for the Memorial Day one. So we all got our quirks, if you know what I mean. It's
the other community thing, Norma Goodman, I'm not going to say how old Norma Goodman is, but she's been around, and she had an interest in flowers, and she and I would go out and do garden shows.
Yep.
And so we're talking about a couple of things here: retirees participating in PAC-B, and then we're talking about community events. How many community events can we process on PAC-B to draw the interest of all people? We're talking about the kids, grandparents and parents to see their kid on TV, but we're also saying, well, we need to do the town board meetings and all that, because that's a necessity, the informational part of it. But then what's happening out in the community? John O'Neill, one of the great things John O'Neill did was the corner mural at the Four Corners. I don't know if you've ever seen it. You're heading northbound, and you look right at where the old bakery used to be.
Yeah, the old bakery was, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing we should be doing, because everybody doesn't know about that. If you live outside the village, And you know, like there's parts of, well, both Lysander and Van Buren that people don't necessarily come into the village.
Right.
They might go to Syracuse. Like I I shop at Tops, but I also shop at Wegmans. Well, a lot of people might not go to Tops because they'll just go to Wegmans over on at 57. So they don't come into the village necessarily. Or if you live in Radisson, you go out 31. You don't necessarily come into the village,
Right.
you know, that often, that frequently to see what is going on. Well, hey, you got it right there on either 30 on Verizon or 98 on Spectrum, right? Those are the two channels.
Well, I mean, I know the Christmas tree lighting ceremony every year is a big deal. I mean,
Right.
I bring my grandkids down to see that. You know,
Yep.
Santa comes in. You know, and then there's a lot going on in Beeville that is very entertaining. But and again, you're right, Joe. I mean, there's people that live on the outskirts like me that don't really go into town much. I mean,
But
I bowl at sports ball. I mean, so I'm down in town, but
right,
that's about it. But the same thing, you were talking about car shows. So now I'm taking my 6-year-old grandson, and he goes to the Maple Road Boys car shows out here. And
Yeah.
he's got his own YouTube channel called Noah's Cars.
oh
So
wow,
I go next year, let's expand that and put it up on PAC-B
right,
because it's great. And every person there with their cars were like, we're so thrilled to see a young kid so into cars, and he loves those cars.
Yeah.
Right? He knows them, Mustangs. He's going down the line and look at that. And I had him do a test interview with a guy with a Corvette, and the guy let him sit in it. And Noah asked all the right questions.
wow,
He's 6. I go, this is going to be good, right? It's so my brother owns a vet, so we're going to travel around in his vet, going to these shows, and I'll try to introduce that next year. I mean, I've got a lot of hopes coming up this spring and what we're getting into, and a lot of what I want to do is now that I'm retired to break away and do my stuff, and that would be wildlife and the cars. I love the cars too. I love those car shows, and you know how much people love showing off their cars.
right,
They
exactly,
will tell you everything about them.
right,
And it's to get those clips, and I'm shooting literally with a phone,
right,
and just going horizontal. So I've got the framing, and then cut in later, and it's really good. And it's good to see the excitement of the young kids doing it.
Yeah,
And,
now,
and
you
Noah
said the
really
name-
loves these cars.
You said the Maple Road Boys. Who are they?
Yeah, they're right down on Maple Road. Every Tuesday they have a open car show, and they all park right off that off of Wetzel, right there in that park.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, they're called the Maple Road Boys because they
Oh,
all
okay.
their cars there, and you
Johnny
got,
Hudson there all the time?
I don't know a lot of. I just started going, and it was
Okay.
great because my wife's got an older. She got a 2010 Mustang. It's nice. I go, we can take that because it's any
Right.
car, but there's everything there. I mean, beautiful, just really, and it's fun event, and they do it every week, and
Right.
it looks like they're the guy they're doing drone video of that show.
Wow,
I go, that's pretty cool. I go, I don't think I can get away with it because you need a license, but the
Yeah.
regular video was stuff. I just sat on the bench, filmed all
Right.
the cars, and then my grandson came, waved to me, and he walked around. We met some guy in a car, and I go, this is good stuff. People like this. Like you said, for cars that we like.
Right.
I'm into 70 Mopars is me. I'm a Roadrunner, Duster, Darts, and
Right.
and he's into like Corvettes and whatever. There's an alley down there, and it's a lot of fun. But there's a whole culture that we could bring to PAC-B. I mean,
Now-
we talk about the future,
right.
bringing stuff in that it's really good. In fact, one of my first videos for PAC-B is a car show in town. I did it. I mean, I did it like 20 something years ago. I
Right.
just stumbled across it on my computer. I go, oh my God. And then you look back and you're like, oh, I did
Right.
that. Trying to find copyright free music back
Right.
then. I mean, there was so many issues, and it's a lot easier now. I mean, we should be able to get more content and do it better.
Now, one of the areas that we haven't covered is historical.
Right. No, absolutely, Joe. Right.
Everything we do is an historical type of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm holding up here is Moore's Pumps. Was Norma and I interviewed Windsor Price and Art LaCourte, who were head honchos, not the head honchos, but close to the head honchos at Moore's Pumps. That's an historical DVD.
Right.
Now, a lot of my DVDs and tapes, I've been given to Bonnie Kisselstein down at the library. And they got them stored down there for the historical value in it.
Right.
And that's another area we need to think about as far as PAC-B goes. What's historical this week that we should be going out and shooting and saving?
Yeah, and going back to what we talked about before, with Vimeo to YouTube and all that, YouTube's a good repository for those historical things, right? Like, they're at the library on a DVD.
Right.
Now, if you play them once a week on PAC-B, unless you're lucky enough to see that, right, you're going to miss it.
Right.
But if you show it and say more at, they can go there, and then all the old videos, stuff that are historically relevant,
right,
come back.
Right.
So I mean, that's a good step. That's a good idea to help bring interest back in. We got to make the platform easy to obtain. I mean, everybody likes, or you can pick whatever you want to watch, right? Everybody's into streaming. I stream the movie the minute I want to see it. Well, unfortunately, PAC-B is still an old style TV station. You've got to go through the guide and wait till Friday night.
Right, exactly.
Right. I mean, so in today's society, people like stuff a little quick, but we've got all that content. You're right, and then we should start, getting it up and then making it available. But then it goes back to volunteers again, Joe.
Right. Exactly.
It's who's going to do. I mean, I don't mind doing the grunt work. I mean, I do a lot of videos, and I love it. It's quite an accomplishment. But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of history of Bevo, and a lot of people are interested. I mean, it's funny. I mean, you get my age, and you're like, oh my God, that stuff I did, that is history.
Right. That brings up the schoolhouse over on campus.
Right.
Sue McManus. Nettle, and the flower show over there every what, June 4th, June 5th, June 6th, right in the flowers show.
But it's like when you look back. I mean, I look back on going to Baker, and the bakery was there, and when they first built Burger King, man, I was so stoked. Whoppers every day. I couldn't wait to get down there. I'm like, oh man, 2 for $5. I gotta go find $5. But it was good stuff, right? You're like, oh, I can't wait to get off the Baker's grounds and go down there and get something to eat. And then you could drive, and then you get caught leaving the parking lot, and that wasn't good. But you're right. There's a lot of history. I mean, it's too bad we don't have a lot of video of all just the normal day-to-day stuff that happened back then, and that's something we should search for. Search for people, say, hey, is there any old videotapes of just life in town 30, 40, 50 years ago? Because VHS has been around for a while, and if you don't get it now, those tapes degrade. You've got a short window.
Exactly.
I mean, I've been spending my retirement converting all my VHS tapes of my kids when they were born into digital, and I'm putting them up on YouTube for the posterity, so they've got it. So they don't come to Dad's house and try to find that tape and see which one it's on. I go, no, here's your birthday when you were 1. Here's your birthday when you were 2. I mean, my grandson came over, and I've got a video of my son singing "Rockin' Robin" in a car.
Yeah, is that right?
Wow. Yeah, oh yeah, it was great. I was a big video first. I was always about that. I was that guy behind the camera at every event. They're like, oh, you're missing it. I go, no, but someday you're going to want to remember this and see it. And in fact, when my mother, she passed through Alzheimer's, I found an old 8mm film of her having a party at my grandparents' house in Syracuse with my great-grandparents all in the backyard dancing around. And I copied it. I just shot it with the camera, playing it up on a screen, and used to take it to her to the nursing home. And now I put it up, and my brothers and sisters go, oh my God, where did you get that from? I'm like, wow, it was an 8mm movie way back when. And they go, Mom was so young. And I go, well, that's your great-grandmother and grandfather right there. And and that's me coming out the door at about 4. Falling over myself. I go, there's my sister. It's, you love that stuff, that historical, it's good stuff. So you're right. We got to bring some of that to it and make it easy to access.
Well, that's part of what's great about Ray Rice's automobile shows. That is history. Yeah. That is history. The cars. That is history. The cars are the history.
Yeah, you're right. Because I'm looking at mine going, the cars that I thought were old then are really old now.
That's exactly right.
I mean, they were just classics then. Now they're really classics.
Exactly.
Yeah, on the history that you're talking about, one of the things that I asked to be done is when they were going to drop the Vimeo channel from the PAC, I asked them, they said, well, can we do that? And I said, the only thing I would suggest is that you copy all the history files that I have on Vimeo over to YouTube before you drop that. Which I believe they've done now. I didn't really check, but I think they did that. And because that was the only thing that I had left on Vimeo that I thought should be retained for people to get to with YouTube. So
Yeah, and
I
Brian,
hope that's been done.
yeah, Brian, the current state manager and our manager, he's in charge and all that. He's doing a really good job getting things transferred over. I'm a lot sloppier than that. I mean, he went through the tapes and the DVDs, and he digitized everything. I mean, it's a big thing about moving and getting it done for posterity, right? It's exactly what we're talking about, because no one's going to remember where they were before. We've got to do that now and put it up there. And I'm sure he's on that. I mean, there's no doubt that's part of what we're doing. And there's still so much to be done. I mean, and now going forward, future prospects, we did one of our first live broadcasts, a live candidate meet the candidate type stuff, and then we've got equipment now that that's our next step, is go live. Do some of these live events, the Memorial Day parade live. I think they did. There's going to be some glitches and everything, because that's technology, right? The beginning, it's all kind of. But that's the excitement of it. I mean, I'm all about going live and doing the stuff live, and because it's so much more fun, right? And people are in the moment. And if we're streaming at the same time we're going to be broadcasting, they're going to be watching on their phone and see themselves. That's going to bring excitement to people wanting to be on the channel and help the channel.
Well, just going back to the history of things, one of those be a good sport. We interviewed Fred Collins. There's a name from the past.
Yeah.
Dick Perkins, Jack Montague. They were on the undefeated baseball team way back when. And there's history right there. And as you're doing that program, you're just thinking of 3 old guys.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, now you say, wait a minute. That is history of Baldwinsville baseball. That is history.
Yep.
It's got to be preserved. It's got to be kept for all times.
Yep. No, it's again, like you're saying, now that I'm retired, I'm going through all my videos, right? I've got my son playing modified football, that's 20 something years ago, but I'll sit here and just stare at it and go, and just put myself back in the moment, hear myself screaming at him, hit that guy, you get all excited, and it's funny. And my grandson's here, and he goes, Grandpa, you yell exactly the same as you did at Uncle AJ as you do at me. I go, well, it's kind of the game. It's what we do. But yeah, there's a big future coming up. I mean, I hope to do more. And you're right. I mean, that's the challenge. It's getting in, like you said, Joe's the retirees, the people that want to do it. I mean, the people in the middle ages, they're busy. I get it. They got stuff to do. They got life to live. They got to work. They got to hustle around. It's not easy. But it really wasn't easy for a lot of the other guys either, even back in our day, that stuck it out and did it. I remember, Norma's stories. Her calling me up saying, "You've got to be there. You better be there. You bring that camera. We told me it's got to be there. It's got to be you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." She could spook the crap out of me. I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "You and Colin are going to the Vera house. You're videoing it. I need it." I'm like, "Okay, got it." But she was also very helpful. She sent me a lot of information about channels in San Diego, and I mean, there was a lot. I mean, you could tell the passion, right? Their passion.
Yes. Well, not only the passion, but the intellect.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the combination of both.
Yeah, I mean, and again,
both.
It's
like I always gotta thank Edge, and I'm gonna out here in the public, but during the pandemic, nobody was going to mass at St. Mary's.
Right.
Hey, we'll videotape a mass, and through his, because I don't have the expertise, but through Bobby Edge's expertise, we got that program to be on the air every Sunday. Right. What your program was on at 5, right? And we put St. Mary's on at 4, and they're still doing it for the shuttles.
Well, and good point, Joe. I mean, during the pandemic, it showed how viable this entertainment is, how viable this is.
Yeah, how valuable.
Right, because you can do it, and with technology has come down in price, it's way more affordable to do this now. I mean, back then, buying a VHS camera was thousands of dollars.
Right.
And now you're a couple $100. You got an 8K, 4K, and you can stream. It's mind blowing where we've come, and be able to use it in the future. But that's why I go back to the live stuff.
But what you're saying is also counterproductive to what we're saying, because everybody's got the smartphones, and they can send the picture to the grandparents now.
Yeah,
but they don't need us.
But they can send it to grandparents, but they want their friends to see it too.
Well,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you know, it's you're right. Oh, you as much as I want to see my grandson play, I want you to see my grandson play. I want you all to see my
Yeah,
because
there you
it's
go.
that pride thing
Good
that's
point.
driving you. You're right. 'Cause that's like in the old days, you used to post. I used to take pictures and I show them to people. Oh, I printed it. Look at it.
Yeah.
Now I got a Facebook page called "Show Me the Bird," where I put all
Right.
my bird pictures because I
Right.
want everybody to see those bird
Exactly.
pictures. Right? And it's kind of a you get those hormones. You're like, oh yeah, you're all excited about seeing it.
Right.
And that's the pride you take in what you do. Same thing with videoing an event. You see that event, you're like, boy, that came out good. You know,
Yeah.
that sounded nice. That's good
Right.
audio. Boy, they're gonna love that song. You know, so there's a lot to it, but we got to find people with passion and enthusiasm, and that's going to be the going forward. That's going to be the hardest thing to do. I mean, but we'll have to work on it. Well, I want to thank you guys for this meeting. You guys probably do another one someday to remember whatever.
Right. Well, thank you
lot,
for your organization and your ideas.
There's a lot to remember, a lot to do, and we appreciate everything you guys have done, obviously, and I appreciate it. I mean, even you, Bob, not ripping me apart for that SD card. I'm feeling pretty good. I still can't believe I forgot that card in that camera that day. You were emailing me like, "Where's the video?" I'm like, "Oh, I gotta tell
That's
Ed
what I wondered.
I gotta tell Ed I didn't get it," and I was all excited. I had tears in my eyes. The guy did a great speech. I'm like, "Oh, this is killer video! I can't. Oh my god, my heart fell through my stomach." But anyways, moving on a high note.
That was back in the silent age.
Yeah,
that was a real history video.
Well, thanks so much, guys. I appreciate your time. And
you are welcome. Glad to do it.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
Have a good spring. Thanks, guys.
Good seeing you, Bob.
So long.
See you guys later.
So long.
All right.